very, very happy Tuesday, and welcome back to the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is April 28th of 2026. I hope everyone has had themselves a good Monday. I know I did. I don't know what's going on. I got myself some allergies. Been kind of combobulated over the last 48 hours. Medicines I'm taking not really work. It's kind of all up in the, congestive, uh, nasal area. That's kind of why, my voice is sounding like that, out as it is. So, we'll try to keep everything, hopefully get better, on our show, as the week progresses. But, I also do want to take this time and just remind everybody, I will be here on Thursday, April 30th. We're gonna be headed out of town. Got a doctor's appointment I'm gonna head to. Be taking a good chunk of my morning out of the way. Won't be back in time to get a show on, so we won't be here Thursday, but we will be here on Friday to talk some sports with you. But that doesn't change what we're going to be talking about here today, talking about here also tomorrow. Uh, the today's agenda, planning on we talked about WWE Raw, what took place last night. As we are counting down the days, as we are building towards WWE Backlash, we'll get you guys ready with the Cincinnati Reds. The Colorado Rockies are coming into town. But I want to start things off with the conversation, uh, which is basically it's a big controversy from last night. That's going to be the San Diego Padres taking on the Chicago Cubs. Uh, and this all kind of unraveled late in the game. The Padres did pull up the victory. They scored 3 runs in the first. And, for San Diego, this is the first time this is the most runs they've scored, throughout the first 27 so plus games. The Padres have only scored, 3 runs total in the first inning. Well, they matched that number in yesterday's ball game. The Cubs came back, put up 5 runs over the first 3 innings. They actually had the lead, 5-4 into the 5th when the Padres took the lead. 2 runs scored in the 5th, 2 runs in the 7th, a run in the 8th, and so the Padres were up 9-5, yesterday last night's ball game. Mason Miller comes in, outstanding pitcher, great pitcher for the Padres. Really kind of, reinventing the definition of what a closer is to be for professional baseball. Something that the art skills has really gotten away. A lot of pitchers have, or a lot of teams have steered away from just designating one pitcher as your closer, and they end up uh, using multiple pitchers throughout the season. Well, Mason Miller entered in this ball game, going about 34 scoreless innings. All right. So he heads into the ninth inning. It's not a scoreless situation, but getting some work done. You're up by 4, and to leave things off in the ninth inning. Let me get down to you exactly the details of all this, because I feel like this is very important. Top of the ninth inning. You see where I'm at. Make sure I get the right information for you. Matt Shaw is up to bat. Okay. And he hits a little soft ground ball down the third base side. And Ty France, who replaced Manny Machado earlier in the game, I think about the 6th inning. Well, the ball was rolling down the third base side on the infield. And indications of videos and replays and still footage clearly shows that the ball just hooks foul about, I don't know, maybe a whole foot, maybe 2 feet away from the third base bag. And you have the umpire who followed the ball all the way down the third base side. So this is more so, I would say, the call of the third base umpire. but the home plate umpire is following this ball, and he's standing over the ball, and as soon as the ball officially goes foul, Ty France picks up the ball, and the umpires call it fair. And this is the controversy that ends up creating the night. Craig Stammen, the Padres manager, comes out and kind of wants clarification. And I'm trying to think of myself. So my brother, who big Padres fan, he goes out. He actually went out to the game last night. He reached out to me this morning. He's like, "What do you think of this call?" I went back and watched it. Obviously, it's a clear foul. I'm not denying that the ball was foul. I'm trying to find some reasons why the umpires would maybe overturn this and make it a fair ball. And one of my one of my brief explanations could have been, and I don't know, like you said, still footage here. If the ball was in the position where it was briefly paused on the line, because any point of the ball was paused on the line is a fair ball. And then I'm wondering, well, could Ty France's hands hovering right over the ball, could that be obstructing the umpire's view? So maybe they're thinking that, hey, there's a little piece of the ball that's on the chalk line, which would make it fair again. Um, so you got a couple of those scenarios to look at. I really don't know what the explanation is, and but boy, this is a really, you have without one, but you have two umpires looking over this play. The ball's right underneath you. Uh, I really don't know where the umpires, look at this. I was assuming maybe it was unchallengeable, but it ends up being, it is challengeable, but the umpires never looked at it. The Cubs, who ran out of challenges, couldn't argue this either. Craig Stammen. Uh, I think the biggest question came from San Diego. Well, why didn't Craig Stammen challenge the call to the point where he got tossed for the game? And usually you see pitchers and you see players and managers, coaches do so, in situations like this. Craig Stammen goes out and says, "Look, I was just thinking about what good does it do to me to put this to give my team the best chance to win when it comes to." Make sure I don't have it. All right. So, what does this do to me to give my team the best chance of winning? And, if this was, usually when managers go out there and challenge and argue a play, and argue a position, a call on the field, is to defend a player. And so in this instance, you would be defending Mason Miller. He has this scoreless streak going on, but according to Craig Stammen, he didn't want to interject over what Mason Miller was doing, the momentum he had, and by getting a toss and throwing a stink out there, kind of just got in the middle of all that. So he felt, look, let me go get a clarification, and I guess it is what it is. It makes sense to a certain level. But later in the inning, you got Dansby Swanson, who is up singling on a line drive to left field. The Pete Crow Armstrong singles on a ground ball to right field. You end up advancing the runners, and then Nico Horner grounds into a force out. Second base Jake Cronenworth into a double play, I believe. You got Dansby Swanson to third, Pete Crow Armstrong to second, Nico Horner to first, and it's now 9-6 Cubs. And then on a wild pitch by Mason Miller, Nico Horner, well, Dansby Swanson scores, and Nico Horner's advances. The Padres ended up winning. Alex Bregman ended up striking out, but this comes to this 34 consecutive inning stretch, scoreless innings to a complete end after last night's ball game. The Padres won 9-7 was the final score. Uh, Here's a little bit of a class that I like to showcase here. After the game, Mason Miller reached out, was asked about it, and he says, "Look, listen, I'm not worried about the streak. I'm worried about this team winning, and that's the for the fact that we won. Is all that matters." So a little tip my cap to Mason Miller, breaking the Padres' scoreless inning streak, setting his own little record there for San Diego. And you think about it, a lot of pressure's probably taken off of him. It is a huge accomplishment trying to go fit another 20, 30 plus innings. Not saying that he couldn't, but you just you kinda get that behind you so that you can move forward in the overall aspect. If you could carry a record or set a record in between there, then that's great. But, at the same time, whatever you could do for your ball club to win. So the Padres did win. That was a controversial statement, conversation that kicked off, that wrapped up last night, in baseball. Well, that's not the only thing. Other things are brewing here. Last we actually heard earlier this week, over the weekend, that the Boston Red Sox released Alex Cora, along with several coaching staffs. Now, I came out and I mentioned, I felt like this was something that was in place for the offseason, but because how the Red Sox were able to bounce back and to, make it to the playoffs last season, I felt like the Red Sox was going to give a second life to the staff, but, after starting off the way they've started off with, not so well, they have decided over the weekend to make a shift and change, coaching staff. That has to do with, releasing, Alex Cora, who took the Red Sox to a World Series and won, but this seems like it's now a domino effect as, uh, Phillies, ended up firing Rob Thompson after starting off with a 9-19 season. The Philadelphia Phillies made some, headwaves over spring, this season at the beginning, releasing, Nick Castellanos, who got signed with the San Diego Padres. Excuse me. Uh, but the Phillies have you have a lot of star power in Philadelphia. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, uh, you have JT Realmuto, and you'd figure that they should be a much better team than they are now. And you find themselves in second to last. They're tied with the Mets, and you're kind of scratching your head. It's like, what is going on? Why are we not playing? You know, good baseball. And, you tie a log to that. It's also come to the notion we're just a month out of baseball. I know we're still in April, but we are a month away. The Braves are 20-9, and the Phillies and the Mets have found themselves 10.5 games back of the NL East. And we know the NL East. It's one of those divisions where you get out to an early substantial lead, you're more likely going to win the division unless you're the New York Mets. So, when you look at Major League Baseball and the standings just a month into it, you really ask there's no other team out there that are 10 games behind in your division. Even the Red Sox are only 7 games behind the Yankees in the AL East. That's usually the second close, the second furthest. So you take these good teams, all right? The Phillies are expected to be a good team. The Mets are expected to be a good team. They are finding themselves 10.5 games back. And it comes with the territory of, well, you know what? We're going to move in a different direction. Don Mattingly has been announced as the interim manager for the Phillies moving forward as of right now. And that has brought me to this kind of statement or this kind of session that I wanted to just present to you. There was an article earlier this week on on MLB.com. It was written by Mike Axisa. Can't pronounce his name. Um, and it was talking about basically other managers that could be on the hot seat. And so we know this was written in comparison to when Alex Cora was let go. But now we found that Rob Thompson, who is one of these players or managers on the hot seat that could find themselves a different job. Now, like you said, that's the case, but who else could be on the chopping block early on? And it's definitely something that we don't see as managers getting fired early on in the season. But teams these days, what they've learned, is something you can't wait. The gas pedal is in full throttle motion. And in order to secure a spot in the playoffs, I think this year, it's going to be uh whoever could complete a season. And it all starts back at the simplest big part of the season, that's the eight. So New York Mets uh are someone or a team. Carlos Mendoza, the Mets, although they have given away, they moved Pete Alonso, they moved on from Edwin Diaz. They have picked up enough players where you could feel like they should be in a good position to be contenders this postseason, right? You have Bo Bichette, you have uh you have Devin Williams, right? And Marcus Simeon, for example. And it seems to me that, 10 and 18, or right, is it 10 and 18 yet for the Phillies, and Mets 9 and 19, excuse me. And you just kind of wonder if any of their failures this season has to do with their performance from last season. This is one of the teams that has, took a turn last midway through last year, stumbled, knocked themselves out of the playoffs because they couldn't finish the year. It seems like that has rolled over into this season. And now you ask yourself, well, although we have departed with some players, what players have we uh been added on? And yeah, how much more patience do you have for Carlos Mendoza? And we may honestly be telling ourselves not too much longer. If you see the pattern between Alex Cora and Rob Thompson, Alex Cora makes the list. The Houston Astros, Joe Espada, who's begun the season thus far with the Astros 11 and 18. They are 4.5 games back of the AL West, which surprisingly a month into it, the Athletics have a 15 and 13 lead in first place. They're 3 and 10 on the road. They're really terrible on the road. They're playing about 500 at home. This is another team. Uh, you can blame their ERA, which is the worst in MLB at 6.04. No other team has a worse than a 5.5 ERA. Just like Mendoza, his final year of his contract. So could the Astros general manager Dana Brown decide, hey, we're going to move on and make that transition into whatever's next for the Astros. It may come to a conclusion that if there was no indication last year, this year, that the Astros era might be wrapping up. Dan Wilson from the Seattle Mariners is also another person on this list. Underperforming, the Mariners are just 14 and 16 thus far this season. Uh, they needed their current 3-game winning streak just to creep into 2 games of 500. Seattle came into the series as a World Series contender, arguably the best team in the American League. If a team doesn't find its footage and begins to rattle off soon, Wilson may be on the spectrum on being let go. The pressure is on, and Seattle, look, the pressure's on to win. For a team to have that much success last year, to be thought of highly, that's going to be a big factor. Now they only find themselves 2 games back from the Athletics in the AL West. Another team on this list, another manager is Tony Vitello for the San Francisco Giants. It's been a bumpy month. I guess who could really blame him, as he is the first college uh, baseball coach to jump and expect to do things at the major league level. Uh, but it's definitely showed throughout this first month. Failed speeches and old grudges may not be to blame for San Francisco's. Where do they start off at? They start off 13-5 start to the season. They certainly don't look great. Buster Posey, POBO, would have some major egg on his face if he has to move on from Tello less than a year after hiring him. But you know, look, I want to say this: the Giants can't have a repeat of last season. They are tied with the Colorado Rockies. They are 6.5 games back. You know, the NL West, the Dodgers ain't going to wait for nobody. So you gotta find a way to make things up, and it may come at the hands of Vitello. Talking about teams that are just maybe not really right now have showed impressive that we've expected to have things turned around. What about the Milwaukee Brewers find themselves 14-13, 3.5 games back uh, of the Cincinnati Reds, who are in first place of the NL Central, but things are definitely not what as they seemed as to begin the year. And then also Toronto Blue Jays, another team heading into the season, finding themselves in the conversations of post World Series contenders, and they are 12-16, 6.5 games back of the Yankees, fourth place in the AL East. And I get it. A lot of it has to do with injuries. A lot of it has to. You hope you find yourself, but it's one of those push that we hope to cut back off of. So, what manager out there do you think is going to be on the chopping block heading into this early on in the season? Let me know down in the comments. Also, like to let's transition here. Continuing baseball conversations. This is an article on MLB.com written by, well, this is not really written, but here is one newcomer from each team making a very strong early impression. So Dylan Cease with the Blue Jays is making an early impression here after signing a 7-year, $210 million deal, largest free agent contract in Blue Jays history. Over his first 5 starts, the Blue Jays Cease has posted a 2.10 ERA with 44 strikeouts in just 26 innings. Anthony Nunez for the Orioles, right-handed pitcher. Nick Martinez for the Rays, a former Reds. He only took 5 starts in the regular season for Martinez, 1-1, 2.10 ERA. To show what he's all about on the mound, the veteran free agent addition to the Tampa Bay's rotation has allowed 2 runs or fewer in each of his outings, and his latest was his best against Cincinnati. Wilson Contreras with the Red Sox. You got Brent Hedrick with the Yankees. Over in the AL Central, Chase DeLatter on the outfield, Lane Thomas with the Royals. Kevin McGonigal with the Tigers, shortstop slash third baseman. And the 21-year-old has established himself among the early candidates for the AL Rookie of the Year. He ranks among the AL rookie leaders in slew of offensive categories. You also got Tristan Gray as an infielder for the Twins, and Munetaka uh, Murakami, first baseman for the White Sox, who hit a go-ahead home run in yesterday's game against the Angels to help them pick up the victory. Brent Suter for the Angels, who was a former Reds relief pitcher, 36-year-old left-handed, who has a 2.12 ERA with 9 appearances and 1 start. Kei Wei Tang, right-handed pitcher for the Astros, Jeff McNeil and the Athletics as a second baseman. The Mariners, Brendan Donovan as a third baseman, Brandon Nimmo for the Rangers. In the NL East, you see the Robert Suarez for the Braves, John King for the Marlins, Tobias Myers for the Mets, Joey Wilmer for the Nationals, and Andrew Painter for the Phillies. Kyle Harrison is approachable for the Milwaukee Brewers, a very impressive. Uh, with Quinn Prester is on the IL, Brendan Woodruff under close watch coming off of a series of injuries, and the rest of the rotation exceedingly young. Where would the Brewers be without Harrison? According to this article, he missed one turnaround in the rotation after getting banged up on a feed from backup first baseman Gary Sanchez, but went into Sunday's start against the Pirates with a 3.036 ERA. Equally budding ace Jacob Mizorowski going into the weekend. Harris's value is argumentative by the fact that he's on the only left-handed making regular starts for Milwaukee at the moment. The Cardinals, undeniably, J.J. Weatherholt, despite only having about 240 batting average, he's number 5 overall prospect for MLB Pipeline entering this season. He's made the impact on a team. His 370 on base percentage shows that he is finding his way on base even from the leadoff spot. In fact, Weatherholt leads all rookies with 20 runs scored, a shortstop trade, a by trade. Weatherholt is holding his own at second base and recorded 4+ outs above average entering his Sunday's game against the Mariners. The issue entering spring training was making the backhanded plays to his right. Weatherholt has got off to a slow start, but he's hard work comes before games has paid off. The Cubs, Edward Cabrera, was one of the reasons why the Cubs swung in a trade before Cabrera over the offseason. Felt the promising starter had a potential ace starting position. In just 30 innings, he's only carried a 2.73 ERA. Ryan O'Hearn for the Pirates, outfielder, first baseman. Pirates have outscored opponents 135 to 106. That's 29 runs difference during the first 30 games of the season. O'Hearn signed a 2-year, $30 million deal back in January. He's a factor on the offense. His slash is 330 to 419 to 511 with 16 RBIs, recorded at least one hit in 20 of his first 25 games. On defense, O'Hearn has split time between first and right field, has yet to make an error. Sal Stewart for the Cincinnati Reds he was called up last September. Now he has a daily presence as a cleanup spot for the Reds lineup. It's been dynamic playing in between Ellie De La Cruz and Eugenio Suarez. The 22-year-old has provided a lineup protection as the duo has been responsible for major chunks of the club's entire offense while it has struggled in the first month. Stewart, who has shown the ability to hit all the fields, is among the league leaders in numerous offensive categories, including OPS, slugging, and home runs. Diamondbacks, you got right-handed pitcher Michael Soroka, Justin uh, Robleski for the Dodgers. You see Luis Arias for the Giants and Bradley Rodriguez for the Padres. Troy Johnston first base outfield for the Rockies, which we'll see on the upcoming series against the Cincinnati Reds beginning tonight. So, for the Cincinnati Reds, there's been a lot of people that we could be impressed with. Uh, I know Sal Stewart makes that list. I know that, he's on top of that list, but I also got to throw out there Dane Myers, to be honest. A guy who I've told to challenge me and to prove me that you belong with this roster. And Dane Myers has done nothing short but to prove why he is a value player coming off the bench and implementing himself as a platoon player in the outfield. JJ Bleday has started off minor league baseball down in AAA on a very high hot streak here recently. And so I'm also expecting JJ Bleday, who recently got called up over the weekend, to be another big impact if he could carry over what he's doing down in Louisville. I also want to throw out, you saw the early uprise. I know we haven't seen a whole bunch of performance. We're actually going to see a little bit more this weekend as we head out to Pittsburgh. But what about that young kid out of Pittsburgh? Who is that young kid? Uh, Connor Griffin. Yeah, that's the kid's name. So Connor Griffin would be another young line pipeline that I'd be looking out for here heading into the season. So maybe I'm interested to see if you're not a Cincinnati Reds fan, if you're a fan of someone else, a different team. Uh, what do you think about who out of your team has really stood out, made early impressions thus far in this season? Let me know down in the comments below. Well, the Cincinnati Reds get ready to begin a three-game series against the Colorado Rockies. Beginning tonight, the series kicks off at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow will be also at 6:40, and then Sunday is the getaway day, or Thursday the getaway day will be at 12:40. Uh, we will have Andrew Abbott on the mound on Thursday. We'll have expected to have, uh, Brennan Williamson on the mound on Wednesday. And tonight, we'll see Chase Burns. We'll talk about that in a moment. The Colorado Rockies find themselves tied in last place, or actually, they are solely in last place with a 13-16 ERA, 7 games back behind the Dodgers. They are 6-4 over the last 10 games. They're on a 3-game winning streak, sweeping the New York Mets. They're down 11 runs in the run differential. They are 6-10 on the road. This is a Rockies team that you are just trying to hope and pray that something uh, that they come out that they could create a couple young talented stars out of the organization over this next year or two. Like I said, they swept the New York Mets over the weekend, took 3 games. They had a travel day off yesterday. They came out here early, but both of them having a day off, I figure that this is going to be a very interesting series. I don't want to sit here and underestimate the Colorado Rockies, but they haven't been a really hot team as of late. Matter of fact, they're coming off of probably, if not one of the worst records in all of Major League Baseball in history over the past this past season. They look to turn things around. Like you said, this road trip that Colorado has found themselves in here. Uh, it's looking pretty nice, as they like I said, they currently are 3-0 on this previous road trip, that started off, in New York. Now, the previous to that, they lost the series to the Padres. that they split the series with the Dodgers, play much better than they have last year. They will wrap up a three-game series here before heading back to Coors Field, where the Reds where they will host the Braves and the Mets. Looking ahead at the schedule because we will see them in at Coors Field, later on this year. I don't That's gonna be coming back from the All-Star break, in the middle of July. It'll be a three-game series, so we will, we have some time away, but it's always fun to go out there because it's a hitter's ballpark, a lot of runs scored, not really great for our pitchers, so we're looking for them to turn things around, but this is going to be, uh a fun series, I say the least. Tonight, 6:40 first pitch between this Rockies team and the Reds. This team will have the Rockies is yet to name a starting pitcher for tonight's ball game, but the Rockies 13 and 16, they're fifth in the NL West, going up against the first place in the NL Central Cincinnati Reds, 18 and 10. You watch this game on Reds TV or listen to it on WOW 700. Tonight's pitcher will be Chase Brown's right-handed pitcher, 2-1 to begin the season. He is 2.57 ERA with the 30 strikeouts thus far on the radar. The Tampa Bay Rays are the last pitch was back on the 21st, which was last Tuesday, where he pitched 5.2 thirds of an inning, giving up 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, it's 8 strikeouts. Second, right? And that's the first pitch, like I said, tonight at 6:40. Then, taking a look at the National League here, let me just, bring it to you, a little bit of information here. The, taking a look at yesterday's, ball games. You have the St. Louis Cardinals who began a four-game series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Cardinals won 4-2 in yesterday's ball game. You also saw the Chicago Cubs who lost to the Padres. Final score 9-7. Today we will see the Colorado Rockies host take on the Cincinnati Reds. First of a three-game series. Game two of the four-game series between the Cardinals and the Pirates today at 6:40. We will also see the tonight at 7:40, the Arizona Diamondbacks take on the Milwaukee Brewers, and that will be a first of a three-game series. And game two of a three-game series, it will be the Cubs and the Padres tonight at 9:40. Also, let's take a look at what's going on down at the farm here as we take a look at minor league options for the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati here, Cincinnati Reds, there we go. The Louisville Bats get set to begin their weekly series. They'll be on the road against Omaha State Storm Chasers. Beginning today, goes all the way through May 3rd. The Bats enter in with a 16-11 record. They are 6-4 the last 10 games with a one game winning streak. They are the Omaha Storm Chasers are the Kansas City Royals. Affiliates, AAA affiliates, the Bats are 8-4 on the road. Chattanooga Lookouts, we'll be back at home hosting the Birmingham Barons, the AA affiliates to the Chicago White Sox. They begin a series that go until May 3rd. At home, the Lookouts are 4-2. They enter today's game with a 16-16 record, or 16-6 record, with an 8-2 over the last 10 and one game losing streak. Dayton Dragons come into play. They'll be on the road against the Lansing Lugnuts, the High A affiliates to the Athletics between Tuesday today uh, and Sunday. The Dragons are 10-10 with a 6-4 record over the last 10 games and a one-game winning streak. They are 4-4 on the road. That is what's going down on the farm. All right, just moving right along. I want to give you an update of NBA, CBS Sports. That's where I find all of my information, at least majority of it, right? Uh, Your NBA here, uh, playoffs continue into tonight's game. In yesterday's game, we saw the Orlando Magic beat the Detroit Pistons, moving to a 3-1 record in their series. They won 94-88. The Oklahoma City Thunders beat the Phoenix Suns 131-122. They have completely swept the Suns in the series and will advance to the next round. The Denver Nuggets beat the uh, Minnesota Timberwolves 125-113. They have came back down from now 2-3. They are trailing. Today's games, we can watch these games. The first game is on ESPN. Tip off is at 7 o'clock. We have the 1-3 76ers taking on the 3-1 Celtics. Celtics gonna win and advance in the series with a victory tonight. At 8 p.m. on NBC, we have the series that are all tied up at 2 apiece. Atlanta Hawks taking on the New York Knicks. And at 9:30 on ESPN, the Portland Trailblazers take on the San Antonio Spurs. The San Antonio Spurs are 3-1 of the season or in the series. I wanted to go ahead and recap Monday Night Raw here briefly for you guys. What do you guys think of how Monday Night Raw went last night? We are on the road to Backlash, and we are trying to create storylines, a lot of things as we are also shifting, right? We saw last weekend a couple of people, several talented superstars get released. It also provided rooms for NXT stars and developmental stars to get pushed up through the main roster. We saw Joe Hendry last night on Raw in a concert performance. So Ruka, Ethan Page all had a segment. And the biggest thing that we saw last night as she comes out from the was the headlines has to be that Roman Reigns will take on Jacob Fatu for the World Heavyweight Championship next Sunday, May 9th at Backlash. That was this. I feel like this is going to be probably the main event match. This now leaves me to question what the stage is set if Cody Rhodes is expected to have a match at Backlash. I don't think so. I think that you could keep and alternate the PLEs between Cody and Roman throughout the months. And this is the foot because my attention now is the story of where does Jacob Fat 2 stand among the bloodline, right? And does he or has he earned himself a championship opportunity? So I say that because when I look at Jacob Fat 2's situation, he was called up and brought to the WWE, joining Solo Sikoa. But Solo Sikoa was brought up and joined the bloodline. And so ultimately you ask yourself, well, who brought in everybody? Well, if it wasn't for the Usos, if it wasn't for Roman Reigns, the bloodline, there's no the door doesn't open for everybody else. The door doesn't open for Solo Sikoa to be where he's at today, or even Jacob Fatu to get the same opportunity that he has been given. So to me, Jacob Fatu has to thank Roman Reigns for giving him establishing the bloodline dominance in the situation. But just because that's at that hand for me, guess what? So what has Jacob Fatu has always been in the shadows of Solo Sikoa, of the bloodline, and has now, just now, finally found himself that pivotal mark where he belongs in the WWE. He belongs in the main storyline. And I strongly believe that his performance at WrestleMania a couple earlier this month was that clear indication of, hey, you belong here. It wasn't for me just a closing of a chapter, what he was saying. It was you solidifying that you as an individual, not associated with the bloodline, with MFTs, you belong in the WWE. And so he's been given the opportunity now. And what other better way to have a true test to see where he lies? See, Roman Reigns is the top dog right now in the family. Roman Reigns has the World Heavyweight Championship. And if anyone wants to prove themselves outside or inside the family, right, it is through Roman Reigns. And right now, we have quickly shifted back to the family's business. We have quickly shifted, and we saw it back on Friday, where Jacob had to take out the MFTs, the people who brought him up, who supported him, the few that he has once had, and now he has to go challenge Roman Reigns. I don't know. I don't think he has what it takes yet. I don't see that, but I think it gives you a clear idea where Jacob Fatu lies. And right now, if you ask me, right now he has lied bigger and better than Solo Sikoa, who brought him in, which is great. So if you look at it, it's he has surpassed his way up, but he's not all the way up there. He's not going to be up there because at the end of the day, Roman Reigns is there. So while we're trying to establish, that on the bloodline, on Raw last night, we also saw Obafemi, who demolished Grayson Waller. And he's out here until he has bide enough time to where we could see him face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania or SummerSlam or whatever, when he could challenge the best of the best. I don't see why he can't do it now, but I'm not writing the storyline. And that to me, he has opened up an open challenge to anybody. Now, one thing here's what I think bothers me about this whole situation with Obafemi, the open challenge, and his statement on Monday. He just proven that he's the new ruler of the jungle. He just beat the Brock Lesnar, and matter of fact, he beat Brock Lesnar into retirement, at least according to what the indication shows. He's the next top dog. He's bigger because guess what? Sure, Roman Reigns, there's been plenty of others who's beaten Brock Lesnar. But how many people have said or can say that I've beaten Brock Lesnar into retirement to the point where he is now he questions himself about his future, whether or not he is whether he could compete in the ring anymore. So I beat him to the point where he took off his boots, he took off his gloves and left them in the ring. Obafemi is the only one who could do that. Therefore, Obafemi right now to me sitting at the top of the food chain. He sits despite having a championship, he should be next in line at whatever title he wants to have on. And to say the excuse, and this is really what downgrades me right here, Obafemi, it sits here and says that all the championships are currently occupied, are currently in their own stories, and therefore he has nothing to push forward. So therefore, he is now forced to open up a challenge to anyone who wants to make a name for themselves, who wants to step up. And I think that's great. But ultimately, this
If Obafemi wants a world heavyweight championship, he's there above Jacob Fatu. As a matter of fact, he should be facing Jacob Fatu to determine who's going to be the next runner-up. The image that the WWE is trying to paint on us is that we are going to wait until the time is right to see Oba and Roman. That we will hopefully see them compete against each other, but the time has to be right, and the time is not right now. They both just freshly came off of big victories. You save this match for a very big PLE, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, WrestleMania 43 in Saudi Arabia, even the year after. I'm not too certain. I don't care. But you don't tell that story now, right? So they're trying to find any other way to keep them as far apart as possible. Now, if you're asking me if that's the case, I'd have Obafemi back on SmackDown. I'd have Obafemi going after Cody Rhodes then. Champion versus champion. But instead, Obafemi is now stuck. Now, like I said, it's good because, you know, he's going to run over anyone and everyone that comes up to him. But that's only going to last so long. And in my opinion, Solo Obafemi is bigger than the United States Championship, is bigger than the Intercontinental Championship. So if you're going to put him into a title match, it has to be for the WWE Championship, or it has to be for the Intercontinental, or for the World Heavyweight, WWE or World Heavyweight Championship. Excuse me. All right, so I want to finish off this program here. We'll talk Raw a little bit later on this week, but I really do want to cover up a little bit of Cincinnati Bengals football. Now, so far this offseason, we have seen a couple of different things come your way through Cincinnati's. You know, it has been desirable that we needed to, that us fans, that even the Bengals knew that the biggest thing that they needed to focus on this year was their defense. All right, their defense was horrendous last season. And so I'm thankful that the Bengals have made a apparent and to address the elephant in the room, and that's their defense. They did that by signing Jonathan Allen to a 2-year deal. They signed Boya Mafe to a 3-year deal. They signed safety Brian Cook and safety / quarterback Kyle Duggar, along with cornerback Jasir Taylor. They re-signed Dalton Wensler to a 1-year deal, the guard. Draft highlights, they signed edge rusher Cassius Howell and wide receiver Colby Young. The Bengals' main focus, okay, let's not forget about Dexter Lawrence, who was traded from the Giants to the Bengals for the 10th overall pick. It was made important that the Bengals offseason needed to be, how do they better themselves defensively? Okay, even we felt that offensively with T. Higgins and with Jamar Chase and Chase Browns, it was and with Joe Burrow behind the realm, we were pretty good, solid there, and we could win and go to the playoffs with our offense alone. But we have to be good and better at defense. And so what did Duke Tobin do? Well, he made efforts here that has really drawn our attention to help the Bengals defensively. Dexter Lawrence is a well-established defensive tackle. You talk about Boya Mafe, a player who played for the Seahawks, who just came off of a Super Bowl victory, going to provide experience and expertise and, excels into this new realm of being, what it takes to be a Super Bowl winning team. They've added some cornerbacks, some safeties, and they really focus themselves around on the defensive line, which I could appreciate because they are addressing issues that we want them to address. But now the question is after the initial offseason began, after the draft has come and gone, what's next for the Cincinnati Bengals? The only thing that I can kind of point to, and I think the only flaw that I don't see them honestly taking, they haven't really paid attention to, is your linebacker situation. What is your secondary here for the Bengals? There's plenty of free agents out there. We talk about maybe Joey Bosa, who would also be nice, but there's even conversations that we may be picking up the fifth-year option off of Miles Murphy, and that would be okay with me. But is there any room between now and summer camp where we could pick up a linebacker that can help just seal this offseason production? If you had to grade the Cincinnati Bengals offseason thus far, I'd have to give it a solid B plus, if not an A minus. And what prevents me from giving it an A plus to like 100%? They've addressed all the needs we needed to figure out this is a team ready to go for the postseason, as for the playoffs. And the only thing that stands in our way is how healthy they lie. That would be the linebackers. Okay, can we find an offensive position or find some sort of trade now? And the fact that the Bengals didn't draft any linebackers this season, just kind of just dampers. And like I said, it's still so far a good offseason, but that's the only thing I think is missing from the Cincinnati Bengals in the offseason progression. Now, you can never have too many offensive linemen, and you could always pick up some more, sure. So those keep on our radar. But this now then lingers the question to me, when we ask ourselves what's next for the Cincinnati Bengals, there's been articles out there about the possibility of even renegotiating and restructuring Joe Burrow's contract to open up some cap space so that we could address other needs. Now, I'm all for it. I think Joe Burrow's all for it. He's seeing the effort getting put in front of him that Duke Tobin, Zach Taylor, they really want to win. And we are making the efforts of, hey, well, let's go ahead and take these risks. Let's go ahead and spend a little bit of money that we don't have or we wouldn't normally skeptically spend in the past. Is that this offseason moves enough to show Joe Burrow how serious we are? Joe Flacco's back, and could we see a reconstruction of his contract, opening up some of the payroll? I'm okay with that. And I think Joe Burrow's okay with that. And I think it would tell us as a fan, as a human being, just what type of person he is if he's willing to renegotiate his contract to benefit the Bengals in the long-term run. I will say this, that in order to do so, the Bengals cannot slow down this pace. They cannot press the pause button and say, great, we have some money, let's sit on it. No, if you're going to renegotiate Joe Burrow's contract and open up his your payroll a little bit, you need to go out there and pick up one or that two missing links to that defense that can help elevate your defense and solidify this offseason to an A-plus outcome, which means, in my opinion, we have to tackle in on what is a linebacker out there, what is going to be defending in the secondary out there. And that's going to be the biggest aggression, at least through my point of view and through my eyes. What do you guys think about that? Is Joe Burrow in a position to renegotiate his contract with the Bengals? Should he restructure it? Should, the Bengals try to do, they still got some unfinished business to do this offseason, how aggressive they should be between here and the summertime? Let me know down in the comments, but I'm going to leave that off with you guys here to finish up our show. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and don't forget to have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. We'll get a Road to the Show series coming up later this afternoon. We'll have our franchise mode between the Rockies and Reds later on this evening as well. We're back on track, looking good. But you can also follow us on our social media pages. We're on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. You can also download us and take us on the road with you wherever you go. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and much more. Remember, we won't be here Thursday, but we'll be back tomorrow talking more sports with you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day.